Welcome to Your City Connections, where you get to meet entertaining and informative guests. Guests such as an artist with a brush or with a camera, and guests with a violin. City Connections, providing insightful interviews with favorite son Lieutenant Governor Todd Lamb. To city commissioners, the mayor. Interviews with a rodeo queen, to beauty queen, and even a NBA player. Now, join Steve Keim as he discusses another engaging topic on City Connections.
Hello again and welcome to City Connections. I'm Steve Keim. I have the privilege of serving as Director of Public Relations and Marketing for the City of Enid and also with the Enid Television Network. We have a variety of topics. As you know, we completed a series of interviews with the governors of Oklahoma. We've had very beauty queens, if I can use that term. We've had a variety of topics from the Chisholm Trail to AAA Auto. But we're going to talk about wrestling. How about that? On City Connections, our topic today is wrestling in Oklahoma, and my very special guest that I've just gotten to know recently is Chance Leonard. Chance is from the big city of Perry, Oklahoma. We have a connection there because we're both from Perry, but he currently resides in Edmond, Oklahoma, and he came all the way up to the Enid Television Network studios today to join us on City Connections. Chance, welcome. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you're my special guest. We're going to talk about wrestling. We're going to talk wrestling. We're not going to exhibit any holds or anything like that. Those days are gone for me. Chance, tell us about wrestling in Perry for you personally, because you are a state champion. I believe you graduated in 1987.
Yes, sir.
And state champion 86 and 87, I believe. But tell us about those Perry wrestling years, and then a little bit about your collegiate career, because you went on to wrestle for the University of Oklahoma.
I did, and I was very fortunate to grow up in a small town, Perry, Oklahoma, who has the greatest wrestling tradition in the state, and certainly widely considered one of the greatest programs in the United States. And so growing up in Oklahoma, I think everybody realizes that that is one of the best sports that we have. And growing up in a very solid program in a great town that supports the wrestling program in Perry was very, very beneficial for me and my family. Both my brother and I wrestled. My dad was a coach, and he wrestled in high school and college as well. So very fortunate to have a really good career, I think. Would love to have won a few more matches along the way. But at the same time, I have learned a lot from the sport, and it's definitely served me well in my professional career.
One of the special connections that I have with Chance is that, and this definitely dates me, that his father, Terry Leonard, which, as I said, I didn't know your dad had a first name. It was always Mr. Leonard, was my junior high football coach and, of course, wrestling coach and also teacher. So we have a special connection there. Chance, I know this happens to you because it happens to me. I'll meet somebody here in Oklahoma or even out of state, and they say, where are you from? And I say, from Perry, Oklahoma. And they would say, oh, did you wrestle? They always ask that question. Yeah. This long, lanky person, did you wrestle? And I go, well, I did till a certain time, till I got beat so much. Then I focused on basketball. But I'm sure people, when they, as much as you travel in your work, and you say you're from Perry, Oklahoma, they say, you know, did you wrestle? Why is Perry kind of the wrestling capital of high school wrestling of the world, if you would?
Yeah.
Why is that the case?
Well, I think it's synonymous. Wrestling is synonymous with Perry, Oklahoma for a few reasons. Number one, it's the intangible qualities that are taught from a very young age that's reproduced throughout the years. It's the work ethic, it's the commitment, and it's the generations of people that are involved in the sport. You know, the town of Perry and its 95-year wrestling program have had 11 coaches in totality. Only 2 have not been from the town of Perry. So everybody understands what their tradition is, everybody understands what the expectations are, and everybody understands what it takes to actually be successful in the sport. So I think all of those things combined with the expectation to achieve and continue the tradition allow the program to be sustained year in and year out. This program is, as I say, 95 years old. It has a national record 40 team state championships. To give that context, Oklahoma State has 37, and that's the dynasty of NCAA wrestling.
Right. Let's go back and talk a little bit more about you. I kind of cut off your answer a little bit. You were a state champion at Perry during '86 and '87, but you also went on to wrestle at the University of Oklahoma. Tell us about your wrestling days, if you will, at OU.
Well, I remember fondly signing my national letter of intent with Stan Abel. And I knew that Perry had a very long tradition of sending athletes to the University of Oklahoma. Obviously, Danny Hodge is the most recognized and celebrated athlete from Perry and was an undefeated 3-time national champion at the University of Oklahoma. And the Hodge Trophy, which is the Heisman equivalent in collegiate wrestling, is named after him. I wanted to be just like Danny Hodge. I wanted to be just like my father in having success at the collegiate level. I will tell you that came and was, or I should say, it was very hard. It was a big jump starting as a true freshman at the University of Oklahoma. I didn't have near the success that I would have liked to have had. I had an injury-plagued career. I've had 4 major spine surgeries up to this date as remnants from that time. But all of the things that I learned in Perry and growing up and participating in the wrestling program prepared me to have success at the collegiate level.
My special guest today on City Connections is Chance Leonard from Perry, but he's now from Edmond. And we want to talk about the Perry Wrestling Monument Park in just a few moments. But Chance, I want to talk about a couple individuals that you just mentioned and that are near and dear to me as well. As a kid growing up in Perry, you were always aware of a guy named Jack Van Beber, and then, of course, Danny Hodge. Before we talk about the park, what can you tell us about these 2 individuals, besides the fact they're from small-town Perry?
Yeah, I can tell you, number one, staggering careers on the mat, but even more importantly, were great Americans, contributing to society in so many different ways with their character and with their integrity and with a commitment to honor their hometown. So we have an Olympic gold medalist in Jack Van Beber, who was a 3-time undefeated national champion at Oklahoma A&M, which is now Oklahoma State University. Right. And we also have an Olympic silver medalist in Danny Hodge, who lost a controversial match in the Olympic finals, but he was a 3-time undefeated national champion at the University of Oklahoma. So we have 2 Olympic athletes who fed, 2 major prestigious programs in the state of Oklahoma and the wrestling world as a whole.
And I remember even as a kid growing up in Perry, being with Danny's kids, if you will, we'd hang out together. And I remember in Perry, they had the only trampoline. And so from where I lived on 2nd Street, I would go all the way up to see Danny and Linda, and we'd hang out on their trampoline. It was the coolest thing because they had the trampoline. Yeah. My special guest today on City Connections is Chance Leonard. Chance currently lives in Edmond with his family, but is from Perry, Oklahoma. He's part of a project that is called the Perry Wrestling Monument Park, and we want to find out about this park in just a few moments. But thank you for staying with us on City Connections. We'll have more with Chance Leonard right after this. Thank you for staying with us on City Connections. I'm Steve Keim and have the privilege to bring, or just to spend a few minutes interviewing some very unique guests. They all have a connection to Oklahoma, many times north central and northwest Oklahoma, and also in Enid. Well, our neighbor to our east is Perry, and our special guest reigns from Perry, and that's Chance Leonard. And Chance, thank you for staying with us. In the first part of our interview, we just kept alluding to this Perry Wrestling Monument Park. Yes. And there's been some discussion about it out in the airways, but tell us, what is this park all about?
Well, the Perry Wrestling Monument Park is the greatest memorial ever created to honor a high school wrestling program. It's not a museum. We didn't name streets after our most accomplished wrestlers, but we created a monument and a memorial in order to honor the entirety of the program. Anybody and everybody that has participated. So we closed off a segment of the town square in an alley, and we put up 2 statues of our greatest wrestlers, most accomplished wrestlers from Perry, as well as granite plaques that signify the enduring nature of a 95-year-old program. And we put up every team state championship, we put up every individual state championship, every collegiate All-American, every collegiate national champion, in order to honor those who have contributed so much to the longevity of our program.
Well, I visited several times, Chance, and let me just say thank you first off. But it is very impressive. It's like memory lane for me to go down those signs, if you will, and see the years and the names of all these individuals. It's really moving. Let's go back a little bit more on the location. Somebody's watching our program, Chance, today, and they may know Perry's in north central Oklahoma. It's off I-35. But now, specifically, you said in an alley area. Do they just go downtown? How can we find the Monument Park?
Well, that's great. I think the easiest way to get there is we're centrally located on the east side of I-35. And so the simple way is to drive into downtown. And on the north side of the square, there is a area between 2 businesses that has been made for our park. And you can't miss it because there's a tremendous arch that was created for people to have a grand entrance into the park.
Sure.
And these statues, they're 10 feet off the ground. They're bigger than the Heismans down at the University of Oklahoma.
Right.
So you can't miss it.
And if you see what's behind us right now on your screen, you'll see the Perry Wrestling Monument Park, and we'll have pictures of the archway in just a little bit, but today we are sitting in front of that. I have a 2-part question for you. Well, let me back up and say this. Oklahoma is known for a lot of athletes. My second cousin is Jim Thorpe.
Yes.
So I'm very pleased to have kind of a family relation there, but there's a lot of Oklahoma, there's football tradition, there's a lot of wrestling tradition. And do you think this park can eventually fit into this tourism you must see, stop and see? As you said, it's not a museum, but it's a park to experience that. Do you think we can get it on the top 5 things to do when you come to Oklahoma?
Well, I certainly think that it is symbolic of not only just the town of Perry, but also what the town of Perry has contributed to the state. So I think anybody that comes into the state of Oklahoma has the opportunity to go by and see it. You don't have to wait for it to be open. You can go by and see it 24 hours a day. It's even lit up at night. But for the people that come and want to visit the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, we're 20 minutes away. And so we invite everybody to come down. And I think that people will want to see this history and this legacy. It's almost 100 years old as a program.
Chance, you've touched on this just a little bit, but let me ask you to just divulge a little bit more information. This is a 2-part question. We'll just go with the first part right off the bat. So why was this built? You've touched on, the tradition and the honor of the Olympians and so forth, but is other reasons why this was built?
Well, I definitely. I think, number one, it is a symbol of excellence. It is to demonstrate and recognize the entirety of the town who has committed so much to preserving this history. And not only that, not preserving, but winning each and every year. I think it's also important for an inspiration standpoint. There are other high school programs around the country that are very, very successful. And we want people to look at this as an inspiration and to do something to honor their own programs as well.
My special guest today on City Connections, Chance Leonard, and Chance is involved in the Perry Wrestling Monument Park. Again, it will be a destination for people across the country to come to Perry, Oklahoma to see this wrestling park as they go to Stillwater and see the Collegiate Wrestling Hall of Fame, if you will. So you've been involved in this project since day one. What's your title? Did you get a fancy title to being in this project?
I am like many of the other people that are on the board and on the committee of the Perry Wrestling Foundation. We have specific titles and responsibilities, but everybody is pitching in together in order to ensure that we accomplish the cause. And so from a standpoint of having a title, we all just kind of stepped aside from that and said, this is what we're going to do. This is the timeline we're going to get it done in. And we all pitched in and made sure that it was done.
Well, I certainly appreciate the work that you're doing to enhance Oklahoma, North Central Oklahoma, and also my hometown, but also wrestling, because, as you said, it has special meaning to a lot of us. And one thing about my role in Perry Wrestling is the reason there were state champions at my weight is because I kept getting beat by these people, but I made them better. See, that was my role. I never did get to a state tournament, but the guys who beat me did, but I made them better. I'm going to stay with that.
But that is so important, because as much as wrestling
I just wanted to play basketball. I'm sorry.
Well, as much as wrestling is an individual sport, it's also a team sport. You cannot actually get better if you don't have somebody that's pushing you. And so there were many people that were part of state championships teams that maybe didn't place at state,
right,
but actually were part of a regional championship and a part of a state championship. And we wanted to make sure that we recognized everybody in that.
Well, just for the record, I was telling Chance the other day, my first wrestling medal occurred at age, well, not the age, but my weight was 50 pounds. Incredible. But that was in 1962, okay? That was my first medal. So that really dates me. Now that should be in a museum itself for something being that old, but you know there's much older medals than that. Chance, the other evening, I had a chance to go to the Perry Wrestling Monument Park, and I was the only one there. It was, of course, lit, as you said. And I was just reading through the names, and it just brought back so special memories of the people that I grew up with, people that were older than me and younger than me, and then you see their names and the years. It was a moving experience for me. It really was, because it was quiet. It was just me to just relive or read those names. What type of experiences will people encounter when they go to the park?
I would tell you that I think it's going to be pretty diverse. And number one, I'm glad that you experienced that, because that was one of the main emphasis. When we created the entryway into the park, we wanted people to know that they were walking into an element of time that they would remember, hopefully fondly. You know, you mentioned some of the times of taking some of the lumps along the years, and so we all did, but it all created a greater good. And so we want people to be inspired. We want people to feel, the memories and some of the difficulties and challenges that they experience. We also want them to remember the glory that came, from winning and remembering those experiences quite fondly.
We have two more questions for Chance Leonard, our special guest on City Connections. We're going to talk about the future developments for the park over there in Perry, and also how we can get involved. And so we'll do that right after this. Thanks for staying with us on City Connections. Welcome back to City Connections, and our special guest today, Chance Leonard. Chance is part of a team that is heading up the Perry Wrestling Monument Park over in Perry, Oklahoma, talking about wrestling in Oklahoma today. You've talked about all the work that's been done, which has been significant, because when you see the park that's behind us, Chance, you see the bronze statues of Jack Van Bibber and also Danny Hodge and all the other plaques and just really all the information that's there. Much has been done, but I'm sure in your heart there's much to achieve. So can you share with us some of the future developments? What's next?
Absolutely. Well, there's a few beautification items that we would like to do to the park to make it a little bit more user-friendly in a sense. We'd like to have some bench seating. One thing that we're really proud of doing is creating the mat in which our wrestlers wrestle on. But we're going to put 2 chairs in each of the corners so that people can actually come in and sit during that time. But I'm going to put a little pressure on our board and our committee members and tell you as a first notice that we also want to add an electronic billboard. This is something that we think would be a highlight to the park that can constantly show updates, how we're doing. People can drive by and see pictures and different things that this electronic billboard can do for us.
And I just want to say thank you so much for the outdoor development of this park.
Yeah.
Because you're right, if it's inside, it's real easy to drive by a building. We'll stop another day. But the fact that it's an outdoor park and you can just kind of stand there and sit there and look at it and experience it's great. It's a great idea. Well, finally, as we close our conversation with Chance today, tell us, how can people get updates on the Perry Wrestling Monument Park, what's next, and really how they can get involved? Because I'm sure, along with the future developments, you need people to be part of the process.
Well, there'll be another, capital raise that we want to do in order to continue the project. And the easiest way for people to become associated and follow us is through social media.
Okay.
Our Facebook page under Perry Wrestling Foundation is easily accessible, and we continue to post updates and new information on that site. We also have a website that we've created. Since we are a 501c3, all tax deductible, all donations are tax deductible.
Okay.
And you can go to pwmpark.org.
Okay. Chance, last question. The Perry Wrestling Monument Park, has it exceeded your expectations at this point where you're at?
Absolutely. This was something that I think, as our group collectively came together, we needed to do something very significant for our town and to honor this program. And for these statues to actually have been placed and to have the lifetime achievement ceremonies that we did to honor the Hodge family and the Van Beber family was terrific. And I think we have certainly set the standard for what an honoring looks like of a high school program.
And one thing that I would like to mention, the Chance said in an earlier conversation with me, was his relationship, or the park board's relationship with the city of Perry. It is so important here at the city of Enid how you need the city government entity to work with all these entities within the community. And I know firsthand the city of Enid does a great job working with other organizations to enhance parks, enlarge parks, and update parks, if you will. And I know that you had that same experience with the city government at Perry as well.
We did. Our mayor was tremendously supportive. Our city council members were tremendously supportive, and everybody bought into what we were trying to accomplish. And we wanted it to be, as I say, accessible to everyone. And so everybody found ways to make it happen. And I will say that, from a donation standpoint, I expected $75 to $100 to be our average donation. We ended up being at $800 per person average. And we started the capital raise in September of 2015, and we were done, paid for, by Danny's birthday in his Lifetime Achievement Ceremony on May 13th of 2016. So that's a testament to a town and its people.
Impressive. Chance Leonard, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for coming by the Enid Television Network studio today. Chance Leonard, again, is our special guest, talking about the Perry Wrestling Monument Park, and also just simply talking about wrestling in Oklahoma. So we have the information on the screen, how you can get involved. And again, if you ever need to send me a potential guest, you can send me an email at asksteve@enid.org. That is ASKSTEVE@enid.org. And we'll find a way to get your guest on City Connections. So Chance, again, thanks for being with us. And thank you for joining us on City Connections. I look forward to seeing you in the near future with another special guest talking about Oklahoma, talking about Enid, and also the surrounding communities. Until next time, make it a great day.